This week's parsha is the most important parsha in the entire Torah. You may ask, why is this week's parsha the most important in the Torah? Well, let me tell you. Parsha Vayeshev starts way back many centuries ago, not long after the Bible began. It opens with us being told that this is the Toldot of Yaakov, but really the story pivots to the story of Yosef. We learn about Yosef's code in his dreams, the brothers' animosity towards Yosef and their plot to kill him, which ends up with them selling him into slavery. We detour into a story about Yehuda sleeping with his daughter-in-law, but don't worry, his excuse is that he thought she was a prostitute. We read about Yosef rising to be the head of Potiphar's house, getting sent to prison on false charges and rising to be the head prisoner, and we hear about Pharaoh's butler and baker, their dreams, and Yosef's talent for dream interpretation. All of that makes for a really great musical, but none of that is why this is the most important parsha in the Torah. The reason this is the most important parsha is because it pulls into focus what I believe is one of the main underlying themes of the entire book of Bereshit: families who don't get along. This is an idea I learned from Rabbi Ari Khan. If we look at last week's parsha, we see 3 episodes of brothers behaving in questionable ways. First, we have Reuven sleeping with one of his father's concubines. Next, we have Shimon and Levi responding to the rape of their sister by killing all the males in the city of Shechem. And after that, we find that some of the brothers have taken the spoils from Shechem, including idols. So we have the brothers committing the 3 cardinal sins which Judaism teaches against: sexual impropriety, murder, idolatry. But that really shouldn't surprise us. The entire book of Bereshit up to this point is full of families fighting and misbehaving. Cain can't get along with Abel and kills him. Avraham and Lot can't get along, so they part ways. Isaac and Ishmael, Yaakov and Esau. With this context in mind, let's take another look at Yaakov's family. Yaakov's father was born into a house where as soon as he was born, his brother Ishmael was sent away. While not Isaac's fault, he grew up in a home where his family was being broken up. The Midrash tells us that when Sarah dies, it's Isaac who goes out and finds Hagar and tries to bring the family back together. Isaac had the hope that his family would eventually stay together, which is why he wanted to split the blessing between Esau and Yaakov, as we spoke about a few weeks back. But of course, we know that didn't come to be. Yaakov leaves the house, and we have another broken household. But Isaac's desire to keep the family together seems to have been passed on to Yaakov. This desire helps explain why he married both Leah and Rachel. You would think that after Lavan pulls the old switcheroo on Yaakov's wedding night, Yaakov would have said, "This family is crazy, I'm out of here." But instead, what he saw were 2 sisters so devoted to each other that Rachel was willing to go along with the ruse so as not to embarrass Leah. Rachel and Leah came from a family that had each other's backs. This was the kind of family Yaakov always longed for. These were the kind of kids Yaakov wanted. You could say that Yaakov was trying to take the mission of Avraham and evolve it from being the role of the covenantal couple to the role of the covenantal family. So when Dinah was raped, her brothers had her back. When the sons committed sexual impropriety, murder, and idolatry, Yaakov didn't kick them out. He has their backs, pulls the family closer together. And that brings us to this week's parsha. We see Yosef exhibiting the same behaviors. He builds relationships with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah so they don't feel like second-class children. He's constantly searching for his brothers and trying to build bridges. His dreams, while they all have Yosef on top, have the whole family together. And then comes the sale of Yosef. The Torah never tells us if Yaakov ever found out how Yosef ended up in Egypt, but you have to imagine how devastating it would have been had he found out. Not only did the brothers not have Yosef's back, they were willing to stab him in the back. The family is powerful against external threats like the rape of Dinah, but doesn't yet have the internal strength to withstand sibling rivalry. The idea of the covenantal family is not quite there. So down to Egypt they must go to solidify Yaakov's dream. But one more idea. This Shabbat is also Shabbat Hanukkah, and Hanukkah is a story about both external threats to the Jewish people as well as internal ones. Yes, there was a war between the Jewish people and the Greek world, but equally it was a battle between brothers, a Jewish civil war. There are 2 miracles we celebrate on Hanukkah: the military victory and the oil burning for 8 days. But Chazal downplays the military miracle and focuses on the oil. Why is that? Well, maybe it's because the military victory wasn't only against the external threat, but it was also over the internal one. And when you win a war against your own brothers, is that really something you should celebrate? But the oil, that's another story. The rabbis created the mitzvah of Hanukkah as one candle for the household. The entire family is supposed to come together to perform the mitzvah. The family has to be whole. The ideal of Yaakov has to be real. That is one reason why this is the most important parsha in the entire Torah. But the other reason is that the most important piece of Torah is whatever piece of Torah you have in front of you right now. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Urim Sameach, and Am Yisroel Chai.